Што правиме, ако го земеме тоа на глобално ниво, со преголемиот напон, притисок, концентрација на оружје секаде во светот? Како тој проблем ќе се реши низ оваа филозофија? Сепак се спротиставени огромни армии во овој момент во светот.
Yeah. And again, I think I deal with that question in my book, you know, what's going to happen to the army and the police and so forth. Well, if you remove money from the system and people actually live without the need for money and they create abundance, we have all the technology we can imagine because the scientists are free to create and invent, the medical companies and inventors are creating cures for all disease and actually giving it to the people, and you don't have drug companies suppressing the cures for cancer and cures for other diseases, which is happening right now, as you know, because the cure for all disease has been found many times over, and that's suppressed by the drug companies the same way that free energy is suppressed by the petroleum companies and the energy companies. The moment you remove money from the system and people live freely in their societies, there's actually no need or cause for conflict. People by nature are not warring. Our warring-like mentality is imposed on us by the governments artificially, and is imposed on us by the governments and the banking families. Remember that the banking families have been responsible for starting pretty much all of the wars that we can go back and recall in our human history.
Има повеќе истражувања, меѓу другото, минатата година во моите емисии го поентираше тоа Вангел Божиновски, а го имам тоа разговарано во моите емисии со Аристотел Тентов, дека најголемиот дел од историјата на човештвото е историја без војни. Дека ископување сега што е направено најново во Јужна Америка на град кој е сега откриен, дека не гледаат околу градот заштитен зид, не гледаат оружје за убиство, има оружје за лов. Меѓутоа нема и во македонските ископини овде, колку се оди подлабоко, помалку има оружје, односно оклопи. И воопшто во светот има историја која памети дека нема војна, немало потреба од војна, затоа што сите живееле. Сега мора да се признае па дека тогаш на планетата имало помалку луѓе. Што значи, добро, не можеле да произведат храна, мора да доловат, но има огромен дел од историјата кога нема војна. Некако војните и воопшто освојувањата се некако коинцидираат со парите. Некако тоа е паралел слалом еден кој.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is what you find when the great invasion of the free world, of the native world happened, and the last wave of invasion was about 500 years ago, right? When the Spanish started going to the Americas and the Portuguese were going to India and Australia and Asia, coming around Africa, they found the native tribes living pretty much in peace and harmony. They didn't have money and they didn't have jails. So the moment in South Africa, for example, the first bank was set up by the Dutch East India Company in 1652. So there was no money, the people lived very happily, and then suddenly this private company from Holland arrives and they set up a bank, a private company that starts issuing the first money and stealing the land from the people with these pieces of paper that are worthless. And the same crime still happens today. And fear is one of the most important or most malicious tactics that's imposed on humanity right now. And if you look at the global media today, that's all they do. It's all fear, fear-based. And if you know that most of the media in the world is owned by 6 companies, the biggest media companies in the world, and they control the news that goes out. It's really the independent media now that is sharing the alternative information, or the real truth is coming through the independent media, not through the mainstream media in most countries. So the fact that you can have a show like this on mainstream television here in Macedonia is a great privilege, because in South Africa we do not have shows like this on television. It's just not going to happen. I have not been invited to speak on any of the television shows in South Africa.
Ти благодарам за ова и морам да се пофалам дека не си првиот што го кажал ова. Значи, Матеуш Пискорски од Полска го кажа, вика, ова ваква емисија не може да има, вика, кај нас да дојде човек да си каже што сака. Тоа исто го кажа Мирослав Лазански од Белград. Вика, чувајте ову емисију, и исто ми пиша за една-две колумни од Мирка што прочитал, вика, ваква колумна не може да излезе во Србија, вика. Потоа, истото ова го кажа Џулието Киеза, го кажа. На два пати доаѓаше овде, два пати, вика, ова е неможно, вика, вака, да има отворено. Главно големите медиуми се контролирани од големите корпорации, и тие не само што го контролираат информациите, туку ги продуцираат, ги креираат, ги измислуваат информациите, дека имало војна, убиства, пат. Еве, може се по себе сега да се сетиме. Веќе никој не се сеќава на Шарли Ебдо, веќе никој не се сеќава на паднатиот авион во Украина. Ништо, веќе ние. На оној, тамо во Тихиот океан или во Индиски, кај падна тој, Сингапур или која беше? Малезија. Никој веќе не се сеќава дека каде е, што е, падна, го нема ништо. Едноставно, значи, на краток период, некој тригер ќе се обида да ти направат нешто, војна, едно, друго, трето, и после тоа го снему, еве, Шарли Ебдо го нема. Толку се собра, нели се собра, сите отидат.
So this is all important information.
Еве, сите, извини, Мајкл, сите огромни злодела што се направени во Јужна Африка, етнички чистења, во гетоата убиства, ама тоа не е убиство на еден двајца, на илјадници, на десетици илјадници луѓе, убиства, снемување. Нема. У Чиле луѓето ги фрлаа од хеликоптер во океанот, никој не одговараше. Еден-два генерала, све е тоа.
Yeah. The important thing is this, you know, we are spiritual beings experiencing a physical experience here in this reality on this planet, and we are waking up to this knowledge and this information. Our DNA is activating all the time in our bodies. There's overwhelming scientific evidence for this. The more our DNA, the so-called junk DNA, is activated, the more it allows us to think higher thoughts, to reach higher levels of consciousness. And this is going on at a very rapid rate. The reason why this fear tactic is imposed on humanity is to stop us from reaching higher levels of consciousness. Now, I know that this might be a little weird information for some people that are new to this, but this is very important to wrap your head around. And because of the research that I do and some of the amazing scientists and researchers that I meet in my travels around the world, I've been privy to some advanced knowledge and information in the fields of biological, molecular biology, genetics, and so forth. And what is going on in our bodies is quite spectacular. The one way to suppress the awakening of humanity and the rise of human consciousness, the global unity consciousness, to unite people, to start us resonating together, is to keep feeding the people with fear, because it is our own fear that suppresses our own rise of consciousness. And that's possibly and probably the main reason why the global media is using this fear tactic. That's because that's all you see all the time. There's no news on the news. It's all manipulation and fear-based control.
Ти ми кажа дека не гледаш телевизија и не читаш вестници. Што значи тоа? Како доаѓаш до информации?
Well, at this stage, I have very little information about what's going on in the world, and I like it like that. For the last 2 years, we have no more television in the house. I don't watch TV at all. The only thing I watch is the odd rugby game and some cricket, some sport, which you don't know here. And I get the information somehow gets to me. The important information gets to me through the people I talk to, through when I log onto the internet. I still get enough to know what's going on. But at least I keep my mind clear of all the propaganda that is...
Кажи ми, во рамките на ова Ubuntu филозофија, како ќе се реши проблемот на тие заедници и контрибуции и така натаму? Како се реши проблемот што ние сите сме различни? Меѓу нас луѓето има лоши луѓе, има зли луѓе, има мрзливи луѓе, има луѓе што сака да подметнат. Еве се сите треба да 1000 луѓе од таа општина ќе работат, да изградат некој мост. Меѓутоа има мрзливи и има завидливи и има лоши што сакаат сето тоа да го уништат. Како со тоа ќе се излезе? Како излага оваа филозофија со тоа на крај? Со човечкиот така.
Yeah. It's important that you ask that question, and I actually deal with that question and those questions in my book. And I call them the frequently asked questions. And what's fascinating about it is that I've identified about 13 most frequently asked questions. And some of the things you mentioned are actually in that list of 13 most frequently asked questions. And it's fascinating because what that shows us is that in this reality that we find ourselves, this capitalistic global monopoly that controls all of us as slaves, we have all been equally poisoned. Our minds are equally enslaved and our minds are equally poisoned because we all seem to ask the same questions. And it's all to do with fear. All those questions that you mentioned are driven by fear. Lazy people, oh yes, well, we've got all these lazy people, they're going to do nothing. Well, that's just a fear of not understanding how people work. Not only is it that, it's like the statement that human nature is to be lazy, and that's one of the 13 frequently asked questions. That is not true at all. We don't even know what human nature is. We've been enslaved as a species for so long, we have forgotten that probably the most important human nature is the nature to want to create, the nature to want to do and to create. As little babies and children, the first thing we start to do is to create, make sounds, to draw, to do things. And then that gets beaten out of us when we go to school. So by the time you finish your 12 years at school, you've been programmed and manipulated into believing that you cannot survive by giving expression to your God-given talents, that you cannot survive by doing what you would like to do for your community because it's not going to earn you enough money. So you're forced to choose something else. So
like
all these
soldiers.
Exactly. So we become soldiers, and that's in essence, as you know, the current education system. It's got nothing to do with education or learning skills. It's creating a future labor force, because when you leave school, you don't know how to do anything, but you have a certificate with which you go look for a job. To do what? To earn money. So it's very obvious that the entire schooling system is a program to create a future labor force. Everything is controlled by the banking families. It's the Rothschilds and the Carnegies that about 150 years ago started putting in place the current education system because they knew they were going to need to have a very indoctrinated and a well-managed future labor force. John Lennon made it very clear. He said, "You may call me a dreamer, but I'm not the only one."
Yes.
And by now, there are millions and billions of dreamers around the world, all waking up to the reality and all ready to make a change.